Close your eyes now, dear listener, and prepare yourself for the most intimate journey you will ever take. Tonight, we voyage not to distant stars or foreign lands, but into the miraculous cosmos that exists within your very own skin. This is the story of you. Not the you that looks back from mirrors, but the intricate, breathing, living masterpiece that carries your consciousness through this world. We will explore every chamber of this temple you call home, naming each sacred space and understanding its divine purpose. From the crown of your head to the tips of your toes, from the rushing rivers of your blood to the electrical storms of your thoughts, we will discover the poetry written in flesh and bone, the symphony composed by billions of cells working in perfect harmony. Settle now into comfort, for this journey will take us through many hours of the night, each moment revealing new wonders, new miracles hiding in plain sight within your own being. Let your breathing slow, let your muscles soften, and allow yourself to marvel at the extraordinary ordinary that is your human form. 1. The crown of creation, the head and brain. We begin our journey at the very summit of your being, your head, that noble dome that houses the most complex structure in the known universe. Feel now the gentle curve of your skull, that protective fortress crafted from 22 bones that fused together as you grew from infant to adult. At the very top sits your frontal bone, the broad expanse of your forehead, beneath which lies your frontal lobe, the seat of your personality, your ability to plan and reason, your capacity for abstract thought. This is where you become most human, where raw sensation transforms into wisdom, where the spark of consciousness burns brightest. Behind your forehead, the parietal bones form the roof and sides of your skull, protecting your parietal lobes, those regions that weave together touch, temperature, pain, and spatial awareness into your sense of where your body exists in space. These lobes create your body map, that miraculous internal GPS that lets you touch your nose with your eyes closed, that tells you where your hand is even in complete darkness. At the back of your head, your occipital bone cradles your occipital lobe, the visual cortex where light becomes sight, where the photons bouncing off this world transform into the rich tapestry of vision. Here, in networks of neurons more intricate than any circuit board, your brain paints the colors of sunset, recognizes the face of your beloved, and marvels at the dance of fireflies on summer evenings. The temporal bones at your temples house your temporal lobes, guardians of memory and language, emotion, and hearing. Within these regions lie your hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure that weaves your experiences into lasting memories, and your amygdala, the almond-shaped sentinel that keeps you safe by remembering what to fear and what to embrace. Deep within your brain lies the hypothalamus, no larger than an almond, yet commanding an empire of hormones and automatic functions. This tiny master regulates your body temperature like a perfect thermostat, triggers your hunger and thirst, governs your sleep cycles, and orchestrates the complex dance of hormones that keeps your body in balance. It connects your mind to your body through the pituitary gland, often called the master gland, which dangles like a pearl from your brain's base, secreting hormones that control growth, reproduction, stress response, and metabolism. Nestled beneath your brain like a flower beneath leaves sits your cerebellum, the little brain that makes grace possible. Every fluid movement of your hand, every step you take without stumbling, every time you catch a falling object, all of this poetry of motion is choreographed by this wrinkled sphere of tissue. It stores muscle memories, balances your body against gravity's pull, and coordinates the symphony of movement that makes you human. The brainstem, composed of the medulla oblongata, pons, and midbrain, serves as the vital bridge between your conscious mind and your body's essential functions. Here, in structures no larger than your thumb, the rhythm of your breathing is maintained, your heart rate adjusted, your blood pressure regulated. The medulla oblongata controls swallowing, coughing, sneezing, those protective reflexes that happen without thought. The pons helps regulate sleep and arousal, while the midbrain processes visual and auditory reflexes, those split-second responses that protect you from harm. 2. The windows of the soul, the eyes and vision. Now let us journey to those twin orbs of wonder, your eyes, those perfect spheres that capture light and transform it into the miracle of sight. Each eye is a masterpiece of biological engineering, more precise than any camera ever crafted by human hands. The journey of sight begins with your cornea, that crystal-clear dome at the front of your eye. Transparent as the purest glass, the cornea bends light rays as they enter your eye, beginning the process of focus. It contains no blood vessels, receiving its nourishment from the aqueous humor, the clear fluid that fills the space behind it. The cornea is exquisitely sensitive, containing more nerve endings per square inch than almost anywhere else in your body, which is why even the tiniest speck of dust can bring tears to your eyes. Behind your cornea lies your iris, that colored curtain that makes your eyes unique. Whether brown like rich earth, blue like deep oceans, green like spring leaves, or hazel like autumn forests, your iris is as individual as your fingerprint. At its center opens the pupil, that black doorway that expands and contracts like a living aperture, allowing just the right amount of light to enter your eye. In bright light, muscles in your iris contract to make your pupil small, protecting the delicate tissues within. In darkness, these muscles relax, opening your pupil wide to gather every available photon. The lens sits behind your iris like a living jewel, transparent and flexible. Unlike a camera lens made of rigid glass, your lens changes shape thousands of times each day, bulging to focus on nearby objects, flattening to see distant vistas. This remarkable ability, called accommodation, is controlled by the ciliary muscles, tiny rings of muscle that contract and relax to reshape your lens with split-second precision. Light passes through your lens and travels through the vitreous humor, the clear, jelly-like substance that fills the main chamber of your eye. This transparent gel maintains your eye's shape while allowing light to pass through unimpeded on its journey to the back of your eye. At the rear of your eyeball lies the retina, perhaps the most extraordinary tissue in your entire body. This delicate membrane, no thicker than tissue paper, contains over 126 million light-sensitive cells. The rod cells, about 21 million of them, are your night vision specialists, so sensitive they can detect a single photon of light. They see only in shades of gray, but work in the dimmest conditions, allowing you to navigate by moonlight and starshine. Your cone cells, roughly 6 million of them, are your color specialists, concentrated in a tiny area called the fovea centralis at the very center of your retina. Here, packed more densely than anywhere else, these cells capture the wavelengths of light that your brain interprets as the full spectrum of color. 3 types of cones respond to different wavelengths, some to short blue light, others to medium green light, and still others to long red light. The combination of signals from these 3 types creates the millions of colors you can perceive. When light strikes these photoreceptor cells, it triggers a cascade of chemical reactions that converts photons into electrical signals. These signals travel along the optic nerve, a bundle of over 1 million nerve fibers that carries visual information from each eye to your brain. The optic nerves from both eyes meet at the optic chiasm, where half of the fibers from each eye cross to the opposite side of your brain, ensuring that both sides of your brain receive information from both eyes.
The visual information travels to your occipital lobe, where the real magic happens. Here, in the primary visual cortex and surrounding areas, your brain reconstructs the world from the electrical signals sent by your eyes. Different regions process different aspects of vision. Some specialize in detecting motion, others in recognizing faces, still others in perceiving depth and distance. Your brain fills in the blind spot where your optic nerve connects to your retina, creates the illusion of smooth motion from a series of still images, and somehow transforms the upside-down image projected on your retina into your right-side-up perception of the world. Supporting your eyes are the extraocular muscles, 6 muscles for each eye that work in perfect coordination to move your eyes in any direction. The superior rectus and inferior rectus move your eyes up and down. The lateral rectus and medial rectus move them side to side, while the superior oblique and inferior oblique help with rotational movements and complex tracking motions. These muscles make thousands of micro-adjustments every day, keeping your gaze steady as your head moves, allowing you to track moving objects and enabling you to shift your attention from near to far with fluid grace. Your eyelids, those protective curtains, blink automatically every few seconds, spreading a thin film of tears across your cornea to keep it moist and clear. Your eyelashes act as filters, catching dust and debris before they can reach your eyes. The lacrimal glands above each eye produce tears, not just the tears of emotion, but the constant, gentle washing that keeps your eyes healthy and your vision clear.
3. The chambers of sound, the ears and hearing. Turn your attention now to those elegant spirals on either side of your head. Your ears, those remarkable organs that capture the vibrations of air and transform them into the rich symphony of sound that fills your world. Your ear is divided into 3 distinct regions, each with its own miraculous purpose. The outer ear consists of the pinna, or auricle, that familiar curved structure made of cartilage and skin that most people simply call the ear. This visible portion is far more than mere decoration. Its complex folds and curves are precisely shaped to funnel sound waves toward your ear canal while helping you determine the direction from which sounds are coming. The external auditory canal leads inward from your pinna, a curved tunnel about an inch long, lined with skin and tiny hairs. The outer third of this canal contains ceruminous glands that produce earwax, that amber substance that protects your ear from dust, debris, and harmful bacteria. The canal's slight S-curve helps protect your delicate eardrum from direct injury. At the end of this canal stretches your eardrum, or tympanic membrane, a thin, translucent membrane no larger than a dime, but incredibly sensitive to the slightest variations in air pressure. When sound waves strike your eardrum, it vibrates like the head of a drum, beginning the process of converting air vibrations into mechanical motion. Beyond your eardrum lies the middle ear, an air-filled chamber containing 3 of the smallest bones in your entire body. These ossicles, the malleus, or hammer, incus, anvil, and stapes, stirrup, form an intricate chain of levers that amplify the vibrations of your eardrum and transmit them to your inner ear. The malleus is attached to your eardrum and moves with it, transferring its motion to the incus, which in turn moves the stapes. This tiny mechanical system amplifies sound vibrations by about 20 times, ensuring that even the softest whisper can be detected. The middle ear is connected to your throat by the eustachian tube, a narrow passage that equalizes air pressure on both sides of your eardrum. When you swallow, yawn, or experience changes in altitude, this tube opens briefly to balance the pressure, which is why your ears sometimes pop during airplane flights or elevator rides. The inner ear contains the most sophisticated structures in your auditory system. The cochlea, shaped like a snail shell, is a fluid-filled spiral chamber about the size of a pea. Within this tiny space lies the organ of Corti, containing approximately 16,000 hair cells, the actual sensory receptors for hearing. These are not hairs in the usual sense, but cells topped with tiny hair-like projections called stereocilia. The cochlea is divided into 3 chambers by 2 membranes. When the stapes bone vibrates against the oval window at the cochlea's base, it creates waves in the fluid within. These waves travel through the cochlea, causing the basilar membrane to vibrate. Different frequencies of sound cause different portions of this membrane to vibrate most strongly. High frequencies affect the base of the cochlea near the oval window, while low frequencies travel farther to affect the apex. As the basilar membrane moves, it causes the stereocilia of the hair cells to bend. This bending opens ion channels in the hair cell membranes, generating electrical signals that travel along the auditory nerve to your brain. Your brain interprets these signals as sound, somehow transforming electrical impulses into the music you love, the voices of those dear to you, the rustle of leaves, and the crash of ocean waves. But your inner ear serves another crucial function beyond hearing. The vestibular system, located adjacent to your cochlea, maintains your sense of balance and spatial orientation. This system consists of 3 semicircular canals arranged at right angles to each other, plus 2 chamber-like structures called the utricle and saccule. The semicircular canals are filled with fluid called endolymph and contain hair cells similar to those in your cochlea. When you rotate your head, the fluid in these canals moves, bending the hair cells and sending signals to your brain about rotational movement. Each canal detects rotation in a different plane, left and right, up and down, or tilting side to side. The utricle and saccule contain otoliths, tiny calcium carbonate crystals that rest on hair cells. These structures detect linear acceleration and the pull of gravity. When you accelerate in a car, ride in an elevator, or simply tilt your head, these crystals shift position, bending the hair cells and informing your brain about your body's orientation and movement through space. All of this information, from your cochlea about sound and from your vestibular system about balance and movement, travels along the 8th cranial nerve, the vestibulocochlear nerve, to your brainstem and then to various regions of your brain for processing and interpretation.
4. The breath of life, the respiratory system. Now let us follow the sacred path of breath, that continuous river of air that sustains every moment of your existence. Your respiratory system is a masterpiece of efficiency, designed to extract life-giving oxygen from the air around you and remove the carbon dioxide produced by your body's countless cellular fires. The journey begins at your nose and mouth, the twin gateways through which air enters your body. Your nose is far more than a simple opening. It is a sophisticated air conditioning system. The nasal cavity is lined with a mucous membrane containing thousands of tiny blood vessels that warm incoming air to body temperature within seconds. Nasal hairs and sticky mucus trap dust, pollen, and other particles, while specialized cells called goblet cells produce the mucus that keeps your nasal passages moist. Your nasal conchae, or turbinates, curved shelf-like structures protruding from the sides of your nasal cavity, create turbulence in the airflow, ensuring that all incoming air comes into contact with the warming, moistening, and filtering surfaces. Above your main nasal cavity lie your sinuses, hollow spaces in your skull bones that lighten your head's weight while producing additional mucus to keep your airways moist. When you breathe through your mouth, air bypasses much of this conditioning, entering through your oral cavity and joining the nasal airstream at the pharynx or throat. The pharynx serves both your respiratory and digestive systems, a crossroads where the paths of air and food briefly intersect.
From your pharynx, air passes through your larynx or voice box, a complex structure of cartilage, muscle, and ligament. The largest cartilage here is your thyroid cartilage, which forms the prominent Adam's apple, more visible in men than women. Within your larynx stretch your vocal cords or vocal folds, two bands of muscle and ligament that can be tensed and relaxed to produce the full range of human speech and song. When air passes through tensed vocal cords, they vibrate to create sound waves that your mouth, tongue, and lips shape into words. Just below your larynx begins your trachea or windpipe, a sturdy tube about 4 inches long and nearly an inch in diameter. Your trachea is reinforced with C-shaped rings of cartilage that keep it open even when surrounding muscles contract. The open part of each C faces backward, allowing your esophagus, which carries food to your stomach, to expand when you swallow large bites. The trachea's inner surface is lined with ciliated epithelium, cells topped with tiny hair-like projections called cilia that beat in coordinated waves about 1,000 times per minute. These cilia move a thin layer of mucus upward toward your throat, carrying trapped particles and bacteria away from your delicate lung tissues in what scientists call the mucociliary escalator. At the level of your fifth thoracic vertebra, your trachea divides into two primary bronchi, the right main bronchus and left main bronchus. The right bronchus is shorter, wider, and more vertical than the left, which is why accidentally inhaled objects more often lodge in the right lung. Each bronchus enters its respective lung through a region called the hilum, where blood vessels and nerves also connect. Within your lungs, the bronchi continue to branch like an inverted tree. Each primary bronchus divides into secondary bronchi, also called lobar bronchi, 3 on the right side for the 3 lobes of your right lung, and 2 on the left side for the 2 lobes of your left lung. These secondary bronchi further divide into tertiary bronchi, or segmental bronchi, which supply specific segments of lung tissue. The bronchi continue branching into smaller and smaller bronchioles, first terminal bronchioles, then respiratory bronchioles, and finally alveolar ducts that open into clusters of alveolar sacs. Each alveolar sac contains 10 to 15 alveoli, tiny balloon-like air chambers where the actual exchange of gases occurs. Your lungs contain approximately 300 to 400 million alveoli, providing a surface area for gas exchange roughly equal to that of a tennis court, all folded into the space of your chest cavity. Each alveolus is surrounded by a dense network of capillaries, the smallest blood vessels with walls only 1 cell thick. Here, oxygen from the air you breathe dissolves through the respiratory membrane, consisting of the alveolar wall, the capillary wall, and their shared basement membrane, and enters your bloodstream, while carbon dioxide moves in the opposite direction, from your blood into the alveolar air to be exhaled. Your lungs are enclosed within the pleural cavity, each lung surrounded by 2 layers of pleura, the visceral pleura attached to the lung surface, and the parietal pleura lining the chest wall. Between these layers is the pleural space, containing a thin film of pleural fluid that allows the lung surfaces to slide smoothly against the chest wall during breathing while creating a vacuum that keeps your lungs expanded. The mechanics of breathing involve your diaphragm, a dome-shaped muscle that forms the floor of your chest cavity, and your intercostal muscles between your ribs. When you inhale, your diaphragm contracts and flattens, pulling downward, while your intercostal muscles lift your ribs upward and outward. This increases the volume of your chest cavity, creating negative pressure that draws air into your lungs. During quiet exhalation, these muscles simply relax, allowing the elastic recoil of your lungs and chest wall to push air out. During forced exhalation, when you blow out birthday candles or exercise vigorously, additional muscles, including your abdominal muscles and internal intercostal muscles, contract to actively squeeze air from your lungs. Your breathing is controlled by the respiratory center in your brainstem, primarily in the medulla oblongata. This center responds to the levels of carbon dioxide, oxygen, and pH in your blood, automatically adjusting your breathing rate and depth to maintain perfect balance. Special sensors called chemoreceptors in your carotid arteries and aortic arch monitor blood chemistry, while others in your brainstem directly sense carbon dioxide levels in your cerebrospinal fluid.
5. The river of life, the cardiovascular system. At the very center of your chest, slightly left of your breastbone, beats the most faithful muscle in your body, your heart. About the size of your clenched fist and weighing roughly 10 to 12 ounces, this hollow, muscular organ has been beating steadily since you were a 4-week-old embryo, pumping life through your body without rest, without vacation, without even a momentary pause. Your heart is actually 2 pumps working side by side. The right heart receives blood returning from your body and pumps it to your lungs for oxygenation, while the left heart receives freshly oxygenated blood from your lungs and propels it throughout your body. Each side has 2 chambers, an atrium, plural atria, that receives blood, and a ventricle that pumps blood out. Your right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from your body through 2 large veins. The superior vena cava brings blood from your head, neck, and arms, while the inferior vena cava returns blood from your trunk and legs. Blood flows from the right atrium through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. This valve gets its name from its 3 cusps, or leaflets, which prevent blood from flowing backward when the ventricle contracts. When your right ventricle contracts, it pushes blood through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary trunk, which immediately divides into the right pulmonary artery and left pulmonary artery. These vessels carry deoxygenated blood to your lungs, where it releases carbon dioxide and picks up oxygen in the alveolar capillaries. Freshly oxygenated blood returns from your lungs through 4 pulmonary veins, 2 from each lung, that empty into your left atrium. From here, blood flows through the mitral valve, also called the bicuspid valve because of its 2 cusps, into your left ventricle, the most muscular chamber of your heart, responsible for generating the pressure needed to drive blood throughout your entire body. When your left ventricle contracts, it forces blood through the aortic valve into your aorta, the largest artery in your body. Your aorta curves upward from your heart, the ascending aorta, forms an arch, the aortic arch, then descends through your chest and abdomen, the descending aorta, giving off branches that supply every part of your body with oxygenated blood. Your heart muscle, called myocardium, is unlike any other muscle in your body. It contracts rhythmically and automatically thanks to specialized cells in your sinoatrial node, SA node, located in the wall of your right atrium. Often called your heart's natural pacemaker, the SA node generates electrical impulses about 70 times per minute at rest. These impulses spread through your atria, causing them to contract and push blood into your ventricles. The electrical signal then reaches your atrioventricular node, AV node, located at the junction between your atria and ventricles. The AV node delays the signal briefly, allowing your ventricles to fill completely before they contract. From the AV node, the electrical impulse travels down the bundle of His and divides into left and right bundle branches that spread throughout your ventricles via Purkinje fibers, causing coordinated ventricular contraction. Your heart is enclosed within the pericardium, a tough, fibrous sac that protects it and anchors it within your chest. The pericardium has 2 layers, the outer fibrous pericardium and the inner serous pericardium. The serous pericardium itself has 2 layers, the parietal layer lining the fibrous pericardium and the visceral layer, also called the epicardium, covering your heart's surface. Between these layers is the pericardial cavity containing a small amount of pericardial fluid that reduces friction as your heart beats. From your heart,
Blood travels through an intricate network of vessels that, if laid end to end, would stretch over 60,000 miles. Arteries carry blood away from your heart, their thick, muscular walls designed to withstand and smooth out the pressure pulses generated by your heart's contractions. The largest arteries branch into medium-sized arteries, then into smaller arterioles, and finally into capillaries, the tiniest vessels where the actual exchange of nutrients, gases, and wastes occurs between your blood and tissues. Capillaries are marvels of biological engineering, with walls only 1 cell thick and diameters so small that red blood cells must squeeze through single file. It's estimated that no cell in your body is farther than about 50 micrometers from a capillary, ensuring efficient delivery of oxygen and nutrients to every tissue. From the capillaries, blood flows into venules and then into increasingly larger veins that return blood to your heart. Unlike arteries, veins have thinner walls and contain valves, one-way doors that prevent blood from flowing backward. The return of blood to your heart is aided by the muscle pump, contracting skeletal muscles squeeze veins and push blood towards your heart, and the respiratory pump. Breathing movements create pressure changes that help draw venous blood back to your heart. Your blood itself is a liquid tissue composed of plasma and formed elements. Plasma, making up about 55% of your blood volume, is roughly 90% water, containing dissolved proteins, nutrients, hormones, gases, and waste products. Red blood cells are your body's oxygen delivery specialists. Shaped like biconcave discs, they lack a nucleus and are packed with hemoglobin, iron-containing proteins that bind oxygen in your lungs and release it in your tissues. Each red blood cell contains about 280 million hemoglobin molecules, and each hemoglobin can carry 4 oxygen molecules. Red blood cells are produced in your bone marrow and live for about 120 days before being recycled by your spleen and liver. White blood cells are your immune system's defenders, far less numerous than red blood cells, but crucial for protecting you from infection and disease. There are several types: neutrophils that engulf bacteria, lymphocytes, including B cells that produce antibodies and T cells that attack infected cells, monocytes that develop into macrophages to consume cellular debris, eosinophils that fight parasites and participate in allergic reactions, and basophils that release histamine during inflammatory responses. Platelets are cell fragments that play a crucial role in hemostasis, the stopping of bleeding. When a blood vessel is injured, platelets stick to the damaged area and to each other, forming a plug. They also release chemicals that trigger the coagulation cascade, a complex series of reactions that converts fibrinogen in your plasma into fibrin threads that weave through the platelet plug to form a stable blood clot.
6. The filters of life, the kidneys and urinary system. Deep within your abdominal cavity, nestled against your back muscles on either side of your spine, lie 2 of your body's most sophisticated filtering systems, your kidneys. Each kidney, about the size of your fist and shaped like a large bean, processes your entire blood volume about 60 times each day, removing wastes, excess water, and maintaining the precise chemical balance that keeps you alive. Your right kidney sits slightly lower than your left kidney to accommodate your liver, and both are surrounded by layers of protective fat and fascia that cushion them against the movements of your body. The outer surface of each kidney is covered by a tough, fibrous renal capsule that helps maintain the kidney's shape and protects its delicate internal structures. If you could slice through a kidney, you would see it organized into distinct regions. The outer renal cortex appears granular and reddish-brown, while the inner renal medulla is organized into 8 to 12 triangular sections called renal pyramids. The tips of these pyramids, called papillae, project into cup-shaped structures called minor calyces, which merge to form 2 to 3 major calyces that drain into the renal pelvis, a funnel-shaped chamber that connects to your ureter. The functional unit of your kidney is the nephron, and each kidney contains approximately 1 million of these microscopic filtering units. Each nephron consists of 2 main parts: the renal corpuscle, where blood filtration occurs, and the renal tubule, where the filtrate is processed into urine. The renal corpuscle contains a cluster of tiny blood vessels called a glomerulus, surrounded by a cup-shaped structure called Bowman's capsule.
Blood enters the glomerulus through an afferent arteriole and leaves through an efferent arteriole. The walls of the glomerular capillaries are specially designed to allow water and small molecules to pass through while keeping blood cells and large proteins in the bloodstream. This initial filtrate, about 180 liters per day, contains water, glucose, amino acids, salts, and waste products like urea and creatinine. The renal tubule consists of several distinct segments, each with specific functions. The proximal convoluted tubule reclaims about 65% of the filtered water and sodium, along with virtually all of the glucose and amino acids, substances your body cannot afford to lose. The loop of Henle, consisting of descending and ascending limbs, creates a concentration gradient that allows your kidneys to produce concentrated urine when your body needs to conserve water. The distal convoluted tubule fine-tunes the composition of your urine under the influence of hormones like aldosterone, which regulates sodium and potassium balance, and antidiuretic hormone, ADH, which controls water reabsorption. Finally, the collecting duct makes final adjustments to urine concentration and composition before delivering the finished product to the renal pelvis. Your kidneys do far more than simply filter waste. They produce erythropoietin, a hormone that stimulates your bone marrow to produce red blood cells when oxygen levels are low. They convert vitamin D into its active form, calcitriol, which is essential for calcium absorption and bone health. They produce renin, an enzyme that helps regulate blood pressure by controlling the constriction of blood vessels and sodium retention. The kidneys also maintain your body's acid-base balance, keeping your blood pH within the narrow range necessary for proper enzyme function and cellular metabolism. They do this by selectively reabsorbing bicarbonate ions and secreting hydrogen ions, literally fine-tuning your body's chemistry molecule by molecule. From each kidney, a ureter, a muscular tube about 10 to 12 inches long, carries urine downward to your bladder. The ureters are not passive tubes, but active transporters, with smooth muscle walls that contract in peristaltic waves to push urine toward your bladder even when you're standing on your head. Your bladder is a remarkable balloon-like organ that can expand from nearly empty to holding 400 to 600 milliliters of urine, about 2 to 3 cups, while maintaining relatively low internal pressure. The bladder wall contains multiple layers of smooth muscle called the detrusor muscle, which contracts during urination. At the base of your bladder, 2 internal urinary sphincters, made of smooth muscle under involuntary control, and 1 external urinary sphincter, made of skeletal muscle under voluntary control, work together to maintain continence. The urethra is the final pathway for urine elimination. In females, it's a short, straight tube about 1.5 inches long that carries only urine. In males, it's longer, about 8 inches, and serves double duty, carrying both urine and semen at different times. The male urethra passes through the prostate gland and the length of the penis. The process of urination, or micturition, involves a complex interplay between your nervous system and bladder muscles. As your bladder fills, stretch receptors in its wall send signals to your spinal cord and brain. When you choose to urinate, your brain sends signals that relax the external urinary sphincter while simultaneously causing the detrusor muscle to contract, forcing urine through the urethra.
7. The chemical messengers, the endocrine system. Throughout your body flows an invisible network of chemical communication, your endocrine system. This intricate web of glands produces hormones, those molecular messengers that coordinate functions across vast distances within your body, traveling through your bloodstream to target specific cells and organs with remarkable precision. At the very apex of this system sits your hypothalamus, that almond-sized region at the base of your brain that serves as the crucial link between your nervous system and endocrine system. Despite its small size, the hypothalamus orchestrates a symphony of hormonal activity that affects every aspect of your being, from your body temperature and hunger to your emotions and sleep cycles. Your hypothalamus produces several crucial hormones that it sends to your pituitary gland, often called the master gland, which dangles like a cherry beneath your brain, connected by a slender stalk called the infundibulum. The pituitary has two distinct parts, the anterior pituitary, or adenohypophysis, and the posterior pituitary, or neurohypophysis, each with different origins and functions. The posterior pituitary releases two hormones produced by your hypothalamus, antidiuretic hormone, or vasopressin, which helps your kidneys conserve water and raises blood pressure by constricting blood vessels, and oxytocin, the love hormone that stimulates uterine contractions during childbirth, milk ejection during breastfeeding, and promotes bonding and trust in social relationships. Your anterior pituitary produces 6 major hormones that control other endocrine glands throughout your body. Growth hormone, or GH, or somatotropin, promotes growth in children and helps maintain muscle mass and bone density in adults. Thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH, stimulates your thyroid gland to produce thyroid hormones. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, triggers your adrenal glands to produce cortisol and other stress hormones. Androgens are male sex hormones produced in small amounts by both males and females. Prolactin stimulates milk production in nursing mothers and has various other functions in both sexes. Located in your neck, wrapped around your trachea just below your larynx, lies your thyroid gland, a butterfly-shaped organ that produces hormones crucial for metabolism, growth, and development. The thyroid has 2 lobes connected by a narrow band called the isthmus. Within the thyroid are millions of tiny hollow spheres called follicles, each lined with follicular cells that produce the thyroid hormones thyroxine, or T4, and triiodothyronine, or T3. These thyroid hormones are unique in that they contain iodine, which is why iodine deficiency can lead to thyroid problems. T4 and T3 regulate your metabolic rate, the speed at which your cells burn fuel to produce energy. They affect your heart rate, body temperature, and the rate at which you burn calories. In children, thyroid hormones are essential for normal brain development and growth. The thyroid also contains parafollicular cells, or C cells, that produce calcitonin, a hormone that helps regulate calcium levels in your blood by inhibiting the breakdown of bone and increasing calcium excretion by your kidneys. This precise calcium regulation is crucial because calcium is needed for muscle contraction, nerve function, and blood clotting. Embedded within your thyroid gland are 4 tiny parathyroid glands, each no larger than a grain of rice. These small but vital glands produce parathyroid hormone, or PTH, which works opposite to calcitonin to increase blood calcium levels. PTH stimulates bone breakdown to release calcium, increases calcium absorption in your intestines, and reduces calcium loss through your kidneys. This precise calcium regulation is crucial because calcium is needed for muscle contraction, nerve function, and blood clotting. Perched atop each kidney, like small caps, sit your adrenal glands, each about the size of a walnut. Each adrenal gland has 2 distinct parts, the outer adrenal cortex and the inner adrenal medulla, which function almost like 2 separate glands. The adrenal cortex produces 3 main classes of steroid hormones. Mineralocorticoids, primarily aldosterone, regulate sodium and potassium balance and thus blood pressure and blood volume. Glucocorticoids, mainly cortisol, help your body respond to stress, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and suppress immune responses when necessary. Androgens are male sex hormones produced in small amounts by both males and females.
The adrenal medulla produces epinephrine or adrenaline and norepinephrine or noradrenaline, the fight or flight hormones that prepare your body for emergency action. These hormones increase heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate while redirecting blood flow to your muscles and brain. They also trigger the breakdown of glycogen to glucose, providing quick energy for your muscles. Deep within your abdomen, nestled behind your stomach, lies your pancreas, an organ that serves both digestive and endocrine functions. The endocrine portion consists of small clusters of cells called the islets of Langerhans, scattered throughout the pancreas like islands in a sea of digestive tissue. Within each islet are several types of cells: beta cells that produce insulin, alpha cells that produce glucagon, delta cells that produce somatostatin, and PP cells that produce pancreatic polypeptide. Insulin and glucagon work as opposing partners to regulate blood sugar levels. When blood sugar rises after a meal, beta cells release insulin, which signals cells throughout your body to absorb glucose from the bloodstream. When blood sugar falls, alpha cells release glucagon, which signals your liver to convert stored glycogen back into glucose. Your reproductive organs also function as endocrine glands. In females, the ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone, hormones that control the menstrual cycle, maintain pregnancy, and develop secondary sexual characteristics. The ovaries cyclically release eggs in response to FSH and LH from the pituitary. During pregnancy, the placenta becomes a temporary but crucial endocrine organ, producing human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG, to maintain the pregnancy, as well as estrogen and progesterone to support fetal development. In males, the testes produce testosterone, the primary male sex hormone responsible for sperm production, muscle development, bone density, and male secondary sexual characteristics like facial hair and deepening voice. Your pineal gland, a tiny pine cone-shaped structure deep within your brain, produces melatonin, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Melatonin production increases in darkness and decreases in light, helping to synchronize your internal biological clock with the day-night cycle. The thymus gland, located in your upper chest behind your breastbone, is most active during childhood and gradually shrinks with age. It produces thymosin and other hormones that are crucial for the development and maturation of T lymphocytes, a type of white blood cell essential for immune function. Even your heart functions as an endocrine organ, producing atrial natriuretic peptide, or ANP, when blood volume and pressure are too high. ANP helps reduce blood pressure by promoting sodium and water excretion through your kidneys and by dilating blood vessels. Your kidneys produce erythropoietin when oxygen levels are low, stimulating your bone marrow to produce more red blood cells. They also produce the active form of vitamin D, or calcitriol, which is technically a hormone that regulates calcium absorption in your intestines. Even your adipose tissue, or fat cells, functions as an endocrine organ, producing leptin, a hormone that signals satiety to your brain, and adiponectin, which helps regulate glucose levels and fatty acid breakdown.
8. The army within, the immune system. Within your body exists an army more sophisticated than any military force ever assembled, your immune system. This network of cells, tissues, and organs works tirelessly to distinguish self from non-self, protecting you from the countless microscopic invaders that surround you every moment of your life. Your immune system operates on multiple levels, starting with physical and chemical barriers that prevent most pathogens from entering your body in the first place.
Your skin, that remarkable organ we explored earlier, serves as your first line of defense, a nearly impermeable barrier that keeps most microorganisms on the outside where they belong. But your skin is more than just a wall. It produces antimicrobial peptides that can kill bacteria on contact, maintains an acidic pH that inhibits bacterial growth, and hosts beneficial bacteria that compete with harmful microorganisms for resources. The constant shedding of dead skin cells helps remove any pathogens that might have adhered to your skin's surface. Your mucous membranes, the moist tissues lining your respiratory, digestive, and urogenital tracts, provide another barrier. These tissues produce mucus, a sticky substance that traps pathogens, and many are lined with cilia that sweep trapped microorganisms away from vulnerable areas. Your saliva contains lysozyme, an enzyme that breaks down bacterial cell walls, while your stomach acid creates an environment so acidic that few microorganisms can survive it. When pathogens do breach these barriers, they encounter your innate immune system, a rapid response force that recognizes general categories of threats and responds immediately. The key players in innate immunity include several types of white blood cells, each with specialized functions. Neutrophils are your most numerous white blood cells and often the first to arrive at sites of infection. These cellular warriors can engulf and destroy bacteria through a process called phagocytosis, literally cell eating. When neutrophils encounter bacteria, they surround and internalize them, then kill them with toxic chemicals and enzymes. Neutrophils can also release their DNA in web-like structures called neutrophil extracellular traps, or nets, that ensnare and kill pathogens. Macrophages are large, long-lived cells that patrol your tissues, constantly sampling their environment. The name means big eaters, and these cells can consume not only pathogens, but also dead cells, cellular debris, and foreign substances. Macrophages also play crucial roles in tissue repair and wound healing. They can present pieces of consumed pathogens to other immune cells, serving as bridges between innate and adaptive immunity. Dendritic cells are the sentinels of your immune system, specializing in capturing antigens or foreign substances and presenting them to other immune cells. They have long branching projections that resemble the dendrites of nerve cells, hence their name. Dendritic cells are found in tissues that interface with the environment, your skin, lungs, and intestines, where they stand guard against invaders. Natural killer cells, or NK cells, patrol your body looking for cells that have become infected with viruses or transformed into cancer cells. They can recognize cells that have lost their normal self markers or are displaying stress signals, then destroy these cells before they can cause harm. Your adaptive immune system provides specific, long-lasting protection against particular pathogens. This system learns from each encounter with a foreign substance and remembers it for future protection. The adaptive immune system consists primarily of two types of lymphocytes, B cells and T cells. B cells are the antibody factories of your immune system. When a B cell encounters an antigen that matches its specific receptor, it can become activated and differentiate into a plasma cell, a specialized cell that produces thousands of antibodies per second. Antibodies are Y-shaped proteins that can bind to specific antigens, marking them for destruction or neutralizing them directly. There are 5 main classes of antibodies, each with specific functions. IgG antibodies are the most common in your blood and can cross the placenta to protect developing babies. IgM antibodies are the first produced during an immune response. IgA antibodies protect mucosal surfaces like your respiratory and digestive tracts. IgE antibodies are involved in allergic reactions and parasitic infections. IgD antibodies help activate B cells. T cells come in several varieties, each with distinct functions. Helper T cells, or CD4 plus T cells, coordinate immune responses by releasing chemical signals called cytokines that activate and direct other immune cells. Cytotoxic T cells, or CD8 plus T cells, directly kill infected cells by releasing toxic substances or triggering the infected cell to self-destruct through apoptosis or programmed cell death. Regulatory T cells help control immune responses, preventing them from becoming too strong or lasting too long. This is crucial because unchecked immune responses can damage your own tissues, leading to autoimmune diseases. One of the most remarkable features of adaptive immunity is immunological memory. After encountering a pathogen, some B and T cells become memory cells that can survive for decades, ready to mount a rapid and powerful response if the same pathogen is encountered again. This is the principle behind vaccination, exposing your immune system to harmless forms of pathogens so it can develop memory without causing disease. Your lymphatic system provides the infrastructure for immune function. This network of vessels, nodes, and organs collects fluid that has leaked from your blood vessels and returns it to your bloodstream while filtering out pathogens and foreign substances. Lymph nodes are small, bean-shaped structures scattered throughout your body, but concentrated in your neck, armpits, and groin. Each node contains compartments where different types of immune cells congregate and interact. When pathogens are detected, lymph nodes can swell as immune cells multiply and mount a response, which is why you might feel swollen glands when you're fighting an infection. Your spleen, located in your left upper abdomen, filters your blood much as lymph nodes filter lymph. It removes old or damaged red blood cells, stores platelets, and provides a site where immune cells can encounter blood-borne pathogens. Your spleen also produces antibodies and is crucial for fighting encapsulated bacteria. Your thymus gland, most active during childhood, is where T cells mature and learn to distinguish self from non-self. This education process is crucial. T cells that react too strongly to your own tissues are eliminated, while those that don't react strongly enough to foreign antigens are also removed. Your bone marrow is the birthplace of all blood cells, including immune cells. Hematopoietic stem cells in your bone marrow can differentiate into any type of blood cell, including the various white blood cells that make up your immune system. Throughout your body are collections of lymphoid tissue called mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, or MALT. This includes your tonsils and adenoids in your throat, Peyer's patches in your small intestine, and the appendix. These tissues sample antigens from your environment and initiate immune responses when necessary. Your immune system also includes a complex network of complement proteins, a cascade of enzymes that can punch holes in bacterial cell walls, mark pathogens for destruction, and promote inflammation. The complement system can be activated by antibodies, by bacterial components, or by other immune recognition molecules. Inflammation is your body's local response to injury or infection. While often uncomfortable, inflammation is actually a protective mechanism that increases blood flow to affected areas, makes blood vessels more permeable to allow immune cells to enter tissues, and activates local immune responses. The classic signs of inflammation, redness, heat, swelling, pain, and loss of function, all serve protective purposes.
9. The living framework, the musculoskeletal system. Beneath your soft tissues lies the magnificent architecture that gives your body its shape and enables movement, your musculoskeletal system. This partnership between bones and muscles creates a living framework that is both incredibly strong and remarkably graceful, supporting your weight against gravity while allowing you to dance, run, embrace, and perform countless delicate manipulations with your hands. Your skeletal system consists of 206 bones in the adult body, though you began life with about 270 bones, many of which fused together as you grew. These bones are living, dynamic tissues that constantly remodel themselves throughout your life, breaking down old bone and building new bone in response to the stresses and demands you place upon them. Compact bone forms the dense outer layer of your bones, providing strength and protection. Under microscopic examination, compact bone reveals itself to be organized into cylindrical units called osteons or Haversian systems. Each osteon consists of concentric rings of lamellae, layers of bone matrix, surrounding a central Haversian canal that contains blood vessels and nerves. Osteocytes, mature bone cells, sit in small spaces called lacunae between the lamellae, connected to each other and to the Haversian canal by tiny channels called canaliculae. Spongy bone, also called cancellous or trabecular bone, fills the interior of many bones with a honeycomb-like network of trabeculae, thin plates and rods of bone tissue. This design provides strength while keeping bones lightweight. The spaces between trabeculae are filled with bone marrow, the soft tissue where your blood cells are born. Red bone marrow is the hematopoietic tissue that produces red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. In adults, red marrow is found primarily in the flat bones of your skull, ribs, sternum, and pelvis, as well as in the ends of long bones. Yellow bone marrow consists mainly of fat cells and fills the central cavities of long bones in adults. Your bones serve multiple functions beyond structural support. They act as reservoirs for minerals, particularly calcium and phosphate, releasing these essential substances into your bloodstream when needed and storing them when they're abundant. This mineral homeostasis is regulated by the hormones parathyroid hormone, calcitonin, and calcitriol, active vitamin D. Bone tissue is constantly being remodeled by two types of cells: osteoblasts that build new bone by secreting the organic matrix and promoting mineralization, and osteoclasts that break down old bone or damaged bone by secreting acids and enzymes. This remodeling process allows bones to repair microscopic damage, adapt to new stresses, and maintain their strength throughout life. Long bones like your femur, thigh bone, tibia and fibula, lower leg bones, humerus, upper arm bone, and radius and ulna, your forearm bones, are engineering marvels. The shaft or diaphysis of a long bone is a hollow tube of compact bone that provides maximum strength with minimum weight. The enlarged ends, or epiphyses, are filled with spongy bone that distributes forces across joint surfaces. Your skull protects your brain within a bony fortress formed by 22 bones. 8 cranial bones, the frontal, parietal, 2, temporal, 2, occipital, sphenoid, and ethmoid, form the cranial vault, while 14 facial bones shape your face and provide attachment points for muscles of facial expression and chewing. Your vertebral column, or spine, consists of 33 vertebrae, 7 cervical, neck, 12 thoracic, chest, 5 lumbar, lower back, 5 sacral, fused into the sacrum, and 4 coccygeal, fused into the coccyx or tailbone. Each vertebra has a cylindrical body that bears weight and a vertebral arch that protects your spinal cord. The spine's S-shaped curves distribute your body weight efficiently and provide shock absorption during movement. Between adjacent vertebra lie intervertebral discs, fibrocartilaginous cushions that act as shock absorbers and allow limited movement between vertebra. Each disc has a tough outer layer called the annulus fibrosus and a gel-like center called the nucleus pulposus. These discs can compress, stretch, and bulge slightly to accommodate spinal movements. Your rib cage protects your heart and lungs within a flexible basketwork of 12 pairs of ribs connected to your thoracic vertebrae at the back and most connecting to your sternum, breastbone, in front. The upper 7 pairs are true ribs that attach directly to the sternum via costal cartilages. The next 3 pairs are false ribs that connect indirectly to the sternum, and the bottom 2 pairs are floating ribs that don't connect to the sternum at all. Your appendicular skeleton includes the bones of your arms, legs, and the structures that connect them to your axial skeleton. Your shoulder girdle consists of your clavicles, collarbones, and scapulae, shoulder blades, while your pelvic girdle is formed by your hip bones, each composed of the ilium, ischium, and pubis. The bones of your arms showcase the principle of leverage and precision. Your humerus provides the power for major arm movements, while your radius and ulna allow your forearm to rotate, giving you the ability to turn your palm up or down. Your hand contains 27 bones, 8 carpal bones in your wrist, 5 metacarpal bones in your palm, and 14 phalanges in your fingers, 3 in each finger, 2 in your thumb. Your legs are built for bearing weight and locomotion. The femur is the longest and strongest bone in your body, designed to withstand forces many times your body weight during running and jumping. Your patella, kneecap, is the largest sesamoid bone in your body, developing within the tendon of your quadriceps muscle to protect the tendon and improve the mechanical advantage of the muscle. Your foot contains 26 bones arranged in 3 groups. 7 tarsal bones in your hindfoot and midfoot, including the calcaneus or heel bone, and the talus that connects to your leg bones, 5 metatarsal bones in your forefoot, and 14 phalanges in your toes. The bones of your foot form 3 arches, 2 longitudinal and 1 transverse, that act as springs to absorb shock and provide elastic recoil during walking and running. Joints are the articulations between bones classified by their structure and the amount of movement they allow. Fibrous joints, like those between skull bones, are immovable. Cartilaginous joints, like those between vertebrae, allow slight movement. Synovial joints are freely movable and include several subtypes based on their shape and movement patterns. Ball and socket joints, like your shoulder and hip, allow movement in all directions. Hinge joints, like your elbow and knee, move primarily in one plane. Pivot joints, like the one between your first and second cervical vertebrae, allow rotation. Gliding joints between small bones allow limited sliding movements, while saddle joints, like your thumb's base, allow movement in 2 planes. Synovial joints are enclosed in joint capsules lined with synovial membrane that produces synovial fluid, a viscous lubricant that reduces friction between joint surfaces. The bone ends in synovial joints are covered with smooth articular cartilage that provides a nearly frictionless surface for movement. Many joints are stabilized by ligaments, tough bands of fibrous connective tissue that connect bone to bone. Some joints also contain menisci, or articular discs, pads of fibrocartilage that improve the fit between bone surfaces and provide additional shock absorption. Your muscular system includes over 600 muscles that work in coordination to produce movement, maintain posture, and generate heat. Skeletal muscles are voluntary muscles that move your bones. Cardiac muscle forms your heart wall, and smooth muscle is found in your internal organs and blood vessels. Skeletal muscle fibers are long, cylindrical cells that can stretch the entire length of a muscle. Each fiber contains hundreds of myofibrils, parallel protein filaments made primarily of the proteins actin and myosin, which the interaction between these proteins, powered by ATP, produces muscle contraction through the sliding filament mechanism. Motor units consist of a single motor neuron and all the muscle fibers it innervates. Small motor units containing few muscle fibers produce fine, precise movements, while large motor units produce powerful but less precise movements. Your brain can control muscle force by recruiting different numbers and types of motor units. Muscles work in groups, with prime movers producing the primary action, antagonists opposing the movement, synergists assisting the prime movers, and stabilizers holding other body parts steady. This coordination allows for smooth, controlled movements while maintaining balance and posture. Your major muscle groups include your quadriceps, 4 muscles that extend your knee, hamstrings, 3 muscles that flex your knee, gluteal muscles that extend your hip, gastrocnemius and soleus, your calf muscles that point your foot, latissimus dorsi that pull your arms toward your body, pectoralis major that push your arms forward, deltoids that lift your arms, and countless others that work together to produce the full range of human.
10. The chemical laboratory. the digestive system. Journey now into one of your body's most remarkable processing centers, your digestive system. This winding, approximately 30-foot journey from mouth to anus is a sophisticated chemical laboratory that breaks down the complex foods you eat into simple molecules your body can absorb and use for energy, growth, and repair. Your digestive adventure begins in your mouth or oral cavity, where the process of digestion starts even before you take your first bite. The sight, smell, or even thought of food triggers your salivary glands to begin producing saliva up to 1.5 liters per day. Your mouth contains 3 pairs of major salivary glands: the parotid glands, the largest located in front of your ears, submandibular glands beneath your lower jaw, and sublingual glands under your tongue, plus hundreds of minor salivary glands throughout your oral cavity. Saliva is far more than just water. It contains amylase, an enzyme that begins breaking down starches into simpler sugars, lysozyme that kills bacteria, lactoferrin that binds iron needed by bacteria, and immunoglobulin A that provides immune protection. Saliva also lubricates food for easier swallowing and helps dissolve food chemicals so they can reach your taste buds. Your teeth are specialized tools for mechanical digestion. Your 8 incisors, 4 upper, 4 lower, have sharp chisel-like edges perfect for cutting food. Your 4 canines are pointed for tearing, while your 8 premolars and 12 molars have broad surfaces with cusps designed for grinding and crushing. Each tooth has a crown covered with enamel, the hardest substance in your body, and roots anchored in your jawbones by periodontal ligaments. Your tongue is a muscular marvel containing both intrinsic muscles that change its shape and extrinsic muscles that move it around your mouth. The tongue's surface is covered with papilla, small projections that contain taste buds. You have approximately 10,000 taste buds that can detect 5 basic tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami or savory. Your sense of flavor combines taste with smell, texture, and temperature sensations. The act of swallowing, or deglution, is a complex reflex involving over 50 muscles. As you chew, your tongue forms food into a bolus and pushes it toward your throat. Your soft palate lifts to close off your nasal cavity, your larynx rises, and your epiglottis covers your trachea to prevent choking, and coordinated muscle contractions push the bolus into your esophagus. Your esophagus is a 10-inch muscular tube that connects your pharynx to your stomach. It passes through your diaphragm via an opening called the esophageal hiatus. The esophageal wall contains both skeletal muscle in the upper third and smooth muscle in the lower 2/3, allowing voluntary initiation of swallowing that transitions to involuntary control. Peristalsis, coordinated waves of muscle contraction, propels food down your esophagus in about 6 to 8 seconds for liquids and 8 to 20 seconds for solids. At the junction with your stomach, the lower esophageal sphincter, a ring of smooth muscle, relaxes to allow food entry while normally remaining closed to prevent stomach acid from refluxing into your esophagus. Your stomach is a J-shaped expandable sac that can stretch from about 50 milliliters when empty to over 1 liter when full. The stomach wall contains 4 layers: the mucosa, inner lining; submucosa, connective tissue layer; muscularis externa, smooth muscle layer; and serosa, outer covering. The smooth muscle layer has 3 orientations: longitudinal, circular, and oblique, allowing the stomach to churn and mix food thoroughly. The stomach lining is folded into rugae that allow expansion and contains millions of gastric glands that produce gastric juice. These glands contain several cell types: chief cells that secrete pepsinogen, the inactive precursor of the protein-digesting enzyme pepsin; parietal cells that produce hydrochloric acid and intrinsic factor needed for vitamin B12 absorption; mucus cells that secrete protective mucus; and G cells that produce the hormone gastrin. The acid environment of your stomach, pH 1.5 to 3.5, serves multiple purposes. It converts pepsinogen to active pepsin, denatures proteins to make them more accessible to enzymes, kills most bacteria and other microorganisms, and enhances the absorption of iron, calcium, and vitamin B12. Your stomach churns food into a semi-liquid mixture called chyme, which is gradually released into your small intestine through the pyloric sphincter. This sphincter regulates gastric emptying, allowing only small amounts of chyme to enter the duodenum at a time to prevent overwhelming the small intestine's digestive capacity. Your small intestine is where most digestion and absorption occur. It's actually the longest part of your digestive tract at approximately 20 feet in length. It's divided into 3 sections: the duodenum, first 10 inches, jejunum, next 8 feet, and ileum, final 12 feet. The small intestine's inner surface is specially adapted to maximize absorption. It's folded into circular folds, or plicae circularis, that are covered with millions of finger-like projections called villi, singular villus. Each villus contains a network of capillaries and a lacteal, lymphatic vessel. Water-soluble nutrients like amino acids and simple sugars are absorbed into the capillaries and travel to your liver via the hepatic portal circulation. Fat-soluble nutrients are absorbed into the lacteals and enter your lymphatic system. Your duodenum receives secretions from 2 crucial accessory organs, your liver and pancreas. Your liver produces bile, a greenish-yellow fluid that emulsifies fats, breaking large fat globules into smaller droplets that enzymes can act on more efficiently. Bile is stored and concentrated in your gallbladder, which contracts when cholecystokinin is released in response to fat in the duodenum. Your pancreas is both an endocrine gland, producing hormones like insulin, and an exocrine gland, producing digestive enzymes. Pancreatic juice contains enzymes that digest all major nutrient categories: trypsin and chymotrypsin for proteins, pancreatic amylase for carbohydrates, pancreatic lipase for fats, and nucleases for nucleic acids. The pancreas also secretes bicarbonate to neutralize the acidic chyme from your stomach. Your jejunum and ileum continue the absorption process, with the jejunum specializing in absorbing simple sugars, amino acids, and fatty acids, while the ileum primarily absorbs vitamin B12, bile salts, and any remaining nutrients. The ileum contains Peyer's patches, collections of lymphoid tissue that help protect against intestinal pathogens. Your large intestine, or colon, is about 5 feet long and consists of the cecum with the attached appendix, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, and anal canal. The large intestine's primary functions are to absorb water and electrolytes from the remaining indigestible matter and to form and store feces. The colon lacks villi, but has deep crypts lined with doblet cells that produce mucus to lubricate the passage of increasingly solid waste. The colon wall contains Taeniae coli, 3 bands of longitudinal smooth muscle that contract to form haustra, pouch-like segments that give the colon its characteristic appearance. Your colon hosts trillions of bacteria collectively known as your gut microbiome or gut flora. These beneficial bacteria help digest fiber that your own enzymes cannot break down, produce vitamins like vitamin K and some B vitamins, compete with harmful bacteria for resources, and help train your immune system. The composition of your gut microbiome is unique to you and influences your health, mood, and even behavior through the gut-brain axis. The final stages of digestion occur in your rectum and anal canal. The rectum stores feces until elimination, while the anal canal contains 2 sphincters: the internal anal sphincter, smooth muscle, under involuntary control, and the external anal sphincter, skeletal muscle, under voluntary control. The coordination between these sphincters allows you to control the timing of defecation. Your liver deserves special attention as the largest internal organ and one of the busiest chemical factories in your body. Weighing about 3 pounds, your liver performs over 500 different functions. It processes nutrients absorbed from your intestines, detoxifies harmful substances, produces bile for fat digestion, synthesizes plasma proteins like albumin and clotting factors, stores glycogen and converts it back to glucose when needed, and metabolizes drugs and hormones. The liver's functional unit is the hepatic lobule, a hexagonal structure centered around a central vein with portal triads at each corner containing branches of the hepatic artery, portal vein, and bile duct. Hepatocytes, liver cells, arranged in plates radiating from the central vein, perform the liver's metabolic functions, while
Chapter 11. The Envelope of Being, the Integumentary System. Wrapping your entire body like a living envelope is your integumentary system, primarily your skin, along with your hair, nails, and various glands. Far from being merely a covering, your skin is your body's largest organ, accounting for about 16% of your total body weight and covering approximately 20 square feet of surface area in adults. Your skin serves as a remarkable multifunctional barrier between your internal environment and the outside world. It protects you from physical trauma, ultraviolet radiation, chemicals, and pathogens, while preventing the loss of body fluids. It regulates your body temperature through sweating and blood vessel dilation or constriction, synthesizes vitamin D when exposed to sunlight, and provides sensory information about your environment through specialized receptors. Your skin consists of 3 main layers, each with distinct structures and functions. The outermost epidermis is a stratified squamous epithelium that forms a tough, waterproof barrier. The epidermis contains no blood vessels, receiving nutrients by diffusion from the deeper layers. The epidermis itself has 5 distinct layers, collectively called strata. The deepest is the stratum basal or basal layer, where new skin cells are continuously born through mitosis. These keratinocytes begin producing keratin, the protein that will eventually make up most of the cell's volume. The basal layer also contains melanocytes, cells that produce melanin, the pigment that gives your skin its color and protects against UV radiation. Above the basal layer is the stratum spinosum, or spiny layer, where keratinocytes begin to flatten and produce more keratin. The cells are connected by desmosomes, protein structures that hold them tightly together. This layer also contains Langerhans cells, immune cells that help protect against pathogens that penetrate the skin surface. The stratum granulosum, or granular layer, is where keratinocytes begin to die and accumulate granules of keratohyalin, a protein that will help form the tough, waterproof barrier of the outer skin layers. Cells in this layer also produce lamellar bodies containing lipids that will be secreted to form waterproof seals between cells. The stratum lucidum, or clear layer, is present only in thick skin areas like your palms and soles. Here, the cells are completely filled with keratin and have lost their nuclei and organelles, becoming essentially dead protein shells. The outermost stratum corneum, or horny layer, consists of 15 to 30 layers of flat, dead, keratin-filled cells called corneocytes. These cells are constantly shed from your skin's surface. You lose about 30,000 to 40,000 dead skin cells every day. The entire journey from the basal layer to shedding takes about 28 days in young, healthy skin. Beneath the epidermis lies the dermis, a much thicker layer of connective tissue that gives skin its strength, elasticity, and most of its thickness. The dermis is divided into 2 regions, the papillary dermis and the reticular dermis. The papillary dermis is the upper portion, characterized by finger-like projections called papillary papillae that interlock with corresponding ridges in the epidermis. This interlocking increases the surface area for exchange between the layers and creates the unique patterns of your fingerprints, palm prints, and footprints.
The papillary dermis contains capillary loops that nourish the epidermis, sensory nerve endings, and some of the cells involved in immune responses. The reticular dermis makes up about 80% of the dermis and contains the major structural proteins collagen and elastin. Collagen fibers provide tensile strength, while elastin fibers allow skin to stretch and return to its original shape. As you age, both collagen and elastin production decrease, leading to wrinkles and sagging skin. The dermis houses numerous important structures. Hair follicles extend deep into the dermis and are associated with sebaceous glands that produce sebum, an oily substance that helps waterproof your skin and hair. Sweat glands come in two types: eccrine glands found all over your body that produce watery sweat for temperature regulation, and apocrine glands found mainly in your armpits and groin that produce a thicker secretion that bacteria can break down to create body odor. The dermis also contains an extensive network of blood vessels that help regulate body temperature. When you're hot, these vessels dilate to increase heat loss through radiation. When you're cold, they constrict to conserve heat. This vascular response is why your skin becomes red when hot and pale when cold. Numerous sensory receptors in your dermis detect different types of stimuli. Meissner's corpuscles in the papillary dermis detect light touch and low-frequency vibrations. Pacinian corpuscles, deep in the dermis, sense pressure and high-frequency vibrations. Ruffini endings detect skin stretch and contribute to your sense of finger position, while free nerve endings detect pain, temperature, and some touch sensations. The deepest layer of your skin is the hypodermis, or subcutaneous layer, consisting mainly of adipose tissue, fat, and loose connective tissue. This layer insulates your body, cushions deeper tissues from mechanical trauma, and serves as an energy storage depot. The thickness of the hypodermis varies greatly between different body areas and individuals. Your hair grows from hair follicles, complex structures that extend from the epidermis deep into the dermis or hypodermis. Each follicle has a hair bulb at its base, containing the hair matrix, the region where new hair cells are produced. The dermal papilla, at the very base of the bulb, contains blood vessels that nourish the growing hair. A hair shaft consists of 3 layers: the medulla, the innermost core, present only in thick hairs; the cortex, the main structural layer containing keratin and melanin; and the cuticle, the outermost layer of overlapping scales that protect the inner layers. Hair growth occurs in cycles consisting of 3 phases: anagen, active growth phase lasting 2 to 7 years for scalp hair; catagen, the transitional phase lasting about 2 weeks; and telogen, the resting phase lasting about 3 months before the hair falls out. At any given time, about 85 to 90% of your scalp hairs are in the anagen phase. Associated with each hair follicle is a small erector pili muscle, a bundle of smooth muscle that can contract to make your hair stand on end, creating goosebumps. This response is controlled by your sympathetic nervous system and occurs during cold exposure or emotional states. Your nails are composed of hard keratin and grow from the nail matrix located beneath the proximal nail fold. The visible part of the nail is the nail plate, which rests on the nail bed. The white crescent at the base of your nail is the lunula, the visible portion of the nail matrix. Ning fingernails grow about 3 millimeters per month, while toenails grow more slowly, at about 1 to 2 millimeters per month. The integumentary system also includes several types of glands. Sebaceous glands are usually associated with hair follicles and produce sebum that lubricates hair and skin. Sweat glands help regulate temperature and excrete some waste products. Ceruminous glands, in your ear canals, produce earwax, while mammary glands are specialized sweat glands that produce milk in females. Your skin color is determined primarily by the amount and type of melanin produced by melanocytes. Eumelanin produces brown and black pigments, while pheomelanin produces red and yellow pigments. All humans have roughly the same number of melanocytes, but they vary in their activity and the amount of melanin they produce in response to genetic factors and UV exposure. When exposed to UV radiation, melanocytes increase melanin production in a process called tanning. This melanin forms protective caps over the nuclei of keratinocytes, helping to prevent DNA damage from UV radiation. However, excessive UV exposure can overwhelm this protective mechanism, leading to sunburn and potentially skin cancer. Your skin also plays a crucial role in vitamin D synthesis. When UVB radiation strikes your skin, it converts 7-dehydrocholesterol in keratinocytes to pre-vitamin D3, which then isomerizes to vitamin D3. This vitamin D3 is further modified in your liver and kidneys to produce calcitriol, the active hormone that regulates calcium absorption and bone health.
Chapter 14. The Rivers of Immunity, the Lymphatic System. Parallel to your cardiovascular system flows another network of vessels and organs, your lymphatic system. This often overlooked system serves as your body's drainage network, immune surveillance system, and fat absorption pathway, working quietly but essentially to maintain your health and fluid balance. Your lymphatic system begins with microscopic lymphatic capillaries, tiny blind-ended tubes that weave between the cells of your tissues. Unlike blood capillaries, lymphatic capillaries have overlapping endothelial cells that create one-way valves, allowing fluid to enter but preventing it from flowing back out. These capillaries collect interstitial fluid, the fluid that surrounds your cells, along with proteins, cellular debris, and pathogens that have escaped from your blood vessels. The fluid within your lymphatic vessels is called lymph, a clear to yellowish liquid similar to blood plasma but with lower protein content. Lymph flow is much slower than blood flow, moving at only about 1 to 2 liters per day compared to your heart's output of about 5 liters per minute. This slow flow allows immune cells within the lymphatic system time to inspect the lymph for foreign substances. Lymphatic capillaries merge to form larger lymphatic vessels that resemble veins but have thinner walls and more valves. These vessels contain smooth muscle that contracts rhythmically to propel lymph forward, aided by the compression of surrounding skeletal muscles during movement and the pressure changes created by breathing. The lymphatic vessels carry lymph through a series of lymph nodes, small bean-shaped structures that act as filtering stations. You have approximately 600 to 700 lymph nodes distributed throughout your body, concentrated in areas like your neck, armpits, groin, chest, and abdomen. Each lymph node is about 1 to 25 millimeters in diameter and surrounded by a fibrous capsule. Inside each lymph node, trabeculae, extensions of the capsule, divide the node into compartments. The outer cortex contains B-cell follicles, where B lymphocytes multiply and differentiate into antibody-producing plasma cells. The inner medulla contains medullary cords filled with plasma cells and macrophages, while medullary sinuses allow lymph to flow through the node. Between the cortex and medulla lies the paracortex, rich in T lymphocytes and dendritic cells. This is where T cells encounter antigens presented by dendritic cells and become activated to fight infections or coordinate immune responses. Lymph enters each node through multiple afferent lymphatic vessels and exits through a single efferent lymphatic vessel, ensuring that all lymph is filtered as it passes through the node. Within the node, lymph flows slowly through a maze of sinuses lined with macrophages that engulf bacteria, cellular debris, and other foreign materials. When your lymph nodes encounter a significant threat, they can enlarge dramatically as immune cells multiply rapidly to mount a defense. This is why you might feel swollen lymph nodes in your neck when you have a throat infection. They're working overtime to filter out bacteria and produce antibodies. Major lymph node groups include the cervical nodes in your neck, which drain your head and neck, axillary nodes in your armpits, draining your arms and upper chest, inguinal nodes in your groin, draining your legs and lower abdomen, mesenteric nodes in your abdomen, draining your intestines, and mediastinal nodes in your chest, draining your lungs and heart. Eventually, all lymph returns to your bloodstream through two major vessels, the thoracic duct
The largest lymphatic vessel collects lymph from the lower body, left arm, and left side of the head and neck, emptying into the left subclavian vein. The smaller right lymphatic duct drains the right arm and right side of the head and neck, emptying into the right subclavian vein. Your lymphatic system includes several specialized organs beyond the lymph nodes. Your spleen, located in your left upper abdomen, is the largest lymphatic organ. About the size of your fist, it serves multiple crucial functions. The spleen filters your blood, removing old or damaged red blood cells, bacteria, and other foreign materials. It also serves as a reservoir for blood, storing about a cup of blood that can be released into circulation during emergencies like hemorrhage. The spleen has two main types of tissue, white pulp and red pulp. The white pulp consists of lymphoid tissue organized around small arteries containing B and T lymphocytes that respond to blood-borne antigens. The red pulp consists of splenic cords and sinusoids, where macrophages remove old red blood cells and recycle their iron content. Your thymus gland is most active during childhood and gradually shrinks with age through a process called involution. Located in your upper chest behind your breastbone, the thymus is where T lymphocytes mature and learn to distinguish between self and foreign antigens. The thymus has two lobes, each divided into an outer cortex where immature T cells proliferate and an inner medulla where T cells complete their education. During T cell development in the thymus, cells that react too strongly to self-antigens are eliminated through negative selection, while those that don't react strongly enough to foreign antigens are removed by positive selection. This careful screening ensures that mature T cells can recognize threats without attacking your own tissues. Your tonsils are collections of lymphoid tissue that guard the entrances to your respiratory and digestive systems. You have several groups of tonsils. The palatine tonsils, what people usually mean when they say tonsils, on either side of your throat. The pharyngeal tonsils, or adenoids, in the back of your nasal cavity. The lingual tonsils at the base of your tongue. And the tubal tonsils near the openings of your eustachian tubes. These tonsils are strategically positioned to sample antigens from inhaled air and ingested food, serving as early warning systems for your immune system. They contain both B and T lymphocytes organized into lymphoid follicles that can rapidly respond to infections. Throughout your digestive tract, you have extensive gut-associated lymphoid tissue, or GALT, including Peyer's patches in your small intestine and isolated lymphoid follicles throughout your intestinal wall. This tissue faces the enormous challenge of distinguishing between harmful pathogens and beneficial bacteria, as well as between dangerous substances and harmless food proteins. Your lymphatic system also plays a crucial role in fat absorption. The lymphatic capillaries in your small intestine, called lacteals, absorb dietary fats and fat-soluble vitamins that are too large to enter blood capillaries directly. These fats are packaged into chylomicrons, protein-coated fat globules that give lymph from your intestines a milky appearance. The chylomicron-rich lymph travels through the cisterna chyli, a dilated sac at the beginning of the thoracic duct, then up through the thoracic duct to enter your bloodstream. This is why dietary fats don't go directly to your liver like most other absorbed nutrients, but instead enter your general circulation. Lymphedema is a condition that occurs when your lymphatic system cannot adequately drain lymph from tissues, leading to swelling. This can happen due to congenital abnormalities, surgical removal of lymph nodes, infection, or other factors that impair lymphatic function. The swelling typically affects your arms or legs and can be quite uncomfortable if not properly managed. Your lymphatic system also plays a role in cancer metastasis, the spread of cancer cells from their original site to distant locations. Cancer cells can enter lymphatic vessels and travel to regional lymph nodes, which is why doctors often examine nearby lymph nodes when staging cancer. However, the lymphatic system also helps fight cancer by presenting tumor antigens to immune cells and coordinating anti-tumor responses.
Chapter 13. The Web of Sensation, the Nervous System. At the very heart of your existence, coordinating every breath, every heartbeat, every thought and movement, lies your nervous system, the most complex and sophisticated network in the known universe. This intricate web of specialized cells
processes information, coordinates responses, and creates the phenomenon of consciousness itself. Your nervous system can be organized in several ways. Anatomically, it consists of the central nervous system, CNS, your brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, PNS, all the nerves and ganglia outside the CNS. Functionally, it can be divided into the somatic nervous system, controlling voluntary movements and processing sensory information, and the autonomic nervous system, controlling involuntary functions like heart rate and digestion. The basic functional unit of your nervous system is the neuron, or nerve cell. You have approximately 86 billion neurons in your brain alone, each one a microscopic marvel of biological engineering. A typical neuron consists of a cell body, or soma, containing the nucleus and most organelles, dendrites that receive signals from other neurons, and an axon that carries signals away from the cell body to other neurons, muscles, or glands. The cell body contains the usual cellular machinery, but also specialized structures like Nissl bodies, rough endoplasmic reticulum, that produces the proteins needed for neurotransmitter synthesis and cellular maintenance. The cell body integrates all the signals received from other neurons and determines whether to generate an action potential, the electrical signal that travels down the axon. Dendrites are branching extensions of the cell body that receive chemical signals from other neurons at specialized junctions called synapses. The branching pattern of dendrites determines how many inputs a neuron can receive and how it processes information. Some neurons have simple dendritic trees, while others, like Purkinje cells in your cerebellum, have incredibly complex branching patterns resembling elaborate trees. The axon is the neuron's transmission line, carrying electrical signals from the cell body to the axon terminals where they connect with other cells. Axons can range from less than a millimeter to over a meter long. The axons that control your toe muscles extend from your spinal cord all the way to your feet. The point where the axon joins the cell body is called the axon hillock, where action potentials are initiated. Many axons are wrapped in myelin, a fatty insulation produced by oligodendrocytes in the CNS and Schwann cells in the PNS. Myelin forms segments called internodes, separated by nodes of Ranvier, where the axon membrane is exposed. This arrangement allows action potentials to jump from node to node in a process called saltatory conduction, greatly increasing the speed of signal transmission. Synapses are the connection points between neurons where information transfer occurs. Most synapses are chemical synapses, where the electrical signal in the presynaptic neuron triggers the release of neurotransmitters, chemical messengers that cross the narrow synaptic cleft and bind to receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. When an action potential reaches the axon terminal, it causes voltage-gated calcium channels to open, allowing calcium ions to enter the terminal. This calcium influx triggers vesicles containing neurotransmitters to fuse with the presynaptic membrane and release their contents into the synaptic cleft through exocytosis. Neurotransmitters bind to receptors on the postsynaptic membrane, causing ion channels to open or close. This can produce either excitatory postsynaptic potentials, ESPs, that make the postsynaptic neuron more likely to fire an action potential, or inhibitory postsynaptic potentials, ISPs, that make it less likely to fire an action potential. Your brain uses dozens of different neurotransmitters, each with specific functions. Acetylcholine is used at neuromuscular junctions and in many brain circuits involved in learning and memory. Dopamine is crucial for motivation, reward, and motor control. Serotonin affects mood, sleep, and appetite. GABA is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter, while glutamate is the main excitatory neurotransmitter. Norepinephrine and epinephrine are involved in arousal and stress responses. Your spinal cord is a cylindrical bundle of nervous tissue about 45 centimeters long, extending from your brainstem to your lower back. It's protected by your vertebral column and surrounded by the same three meninges that cover your brain: the tough outer dura mater, the web-like arachnoid mater, and the delicate inner pia mater. In cross-section, your spinal cord shows distinct regions. The gray matter, shaped like a butterfly or the letter H, contains neuron cell bodies, dendrites, and synapses. The white matter surrounding the gray matter contains myelinated axons organized into tracts that carry information up and down the spinal cord. The spinal cord has both ascending tracts that carry sensory information to the brain and descending tracts that carry motor commands from the brain to the body. Major ascending tracts include the dorsal column medial lemniscal pathway for fine touch and proprioception, and the spinothalamic tract for pain and temperature. Important descending tracts include the corticospinal tract for voluntary motor control. Your spinal nerves emerge from the spinal cord in 31 pairs: 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and 1 coccygeal. Each spinal nerve is formed by the merger of a dorsal root, carrying sensory fibers, and a ventral root, carrying motor fibers. The dorsal root contains the dorsal root ganglion, where the cell bodies of sensory neurons are located. Your peripheral nervous system includes all nervous tissue outside the CNS. The somatic nervous system consists of motor neurons that control skeletal muscles and sensory neurons that carry information from sensory receptors to the CNS. The autonomic nervous system controls involuntary functions and has 3 divisions: sympathetic, parasympathetic, and enteric. Your sympathetic nervous system prepares your body for fight or flight responses. Its neurons release norepinephrine at most targets, increasing heart rate, dilating pupils, redirecting blood flow to muscles, and triggering the release of glucose from the liver. Sympathetic preganglionic neurons have their cell bodies in the thoracic and lumbar spinal cord. The parasympathetic nervous system promotes rest and digest activities. Its neurons release acetylcholine, slowing heart rate, constricting pupils, stimulating digestion, and promoting energy conservation. Parasympathetic preganglionic neurons have their cell bodies in the brainstem and sacral spinal cord. The enteric nervous system is sometimes called the second brain because it can function independently of the CNS. Located in the walls of your digestive tract, it contains more neurons than your spinal cord and controls gut motility, secretion, and blood flow. Your brain surface is covered with the cerebral cortex, a layer of gray matter about 2 to 4 millimeters thick, containing roughly 16 billion neurons. The cortex is highly folded with gyri, ridges, and sulci, grooves, that increase its surface area. Major sulci divide each cerebral hemisphere into 4 lobes: frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital. The frontal lobe contains your primary motor cortex in the precentral gyrus, which controls voluntary movements. The prefrontal cortex is involved in executive functions like planning, decision-making, and impulse control. Broca's area in the left frontal lobe is crucial for speech production. The parietal lobe contains your primary somatosensory cortex in the postcentral gyrus, which processes touch, temperature, pain, and proprioceptive information. The parietal lobe also integrates sensory information and is involved in spatial awareness and attention. The temporal lobe contains your primary auditory cortex for processing sound, as well as the hippocampus, crucial for memory formation, and the amygdala, involved in emotion and fear responses. Wernicke's area in the left temporal lobe is important for language comprehension. The occipital lobe contains your primary visual cortex and associated visual processing areas that interpret the signals from your eyes. Deep within your brain lie several important structures. The thalamus acts as a relay station, processing and directing sensory information to appropriate cortical areas. The hypothalamus controls homeostatic functions and links the nervous and endocrine systems. The basal ganglia are involved in motor control and habit formation. Your cerebellum, or little brain, contains more neurons than the rest of your brain combined. Despite being only 10% of your brain's weight, it has about 69 billion neurons, more than 80% of all your brain's neurons. The cerebellum fine-tunes movement, maintains balance, and is involved in learning motor skills.
Chapter 15, The Symphony's Grand Finale, Integration and Harmony. As our journey through the miraculous landscape of your body draws toward its close, dear listener, we must pause to marvel at the most extraordinary aspect of all, not any single system or organ, but the breathtaking integration and coordination that allows all these complex systems to work together as one unified whole. Every moment of your existence represents a triumph of biological cooperation on a scale that defies comprehension. Your nervous system constantly monitors and adjusts the activities of every other system. Your endocrine system sends chemical messengers that fine-tune cellular activities throughout your body. Your cardiovascular system delivers exactly what each tissue needs, while removing what it doesn't. Your respiratory system maintains perfect gas exchange. Your kidneys balance your body's chemistry with precision that would make the most sophisticated laboratory jealous. Consider the remarkable homeostasis, the maintenance of stable internal conditions despite constant changes in your environment. Your body temperature remains within a narrow range, whether you're in the Arctic cold or desert heat. Your blood pH stays precisely controlled even as you consume acidic or alkaline foods. Your blood sugar levels are maintained within tight limits, despite feast or famine. This homeostasis is achieved through countless feedback loops, systems that sense changes and trigger responses to counteract them. When your blood pressure rises, baroreceptors in your arteries detect the change and signal to your brain to slow your heart rate and dilate your blood vessels. When your blood sugar falls, alpha cells in your pancreas release glucagon to stimulate glucose production. When you become dehydrated, your hypothalamus triggers thirst and releases ADH to conserve water. The integration goes deeper still. Your gut-brain axis connects your digestive system directly to your central nervous system, allowing your intestines to influence your mood and your emotions to affect your digestion. Your psychoneuroimmunology demonstrates how your thoughts and feelings can strengthen or weaken your immune responses. Your circadian rhythms coordinate the activity of virtually every cell in your body with the 24-hour cycle of day and night. Even your microbiome, the trillions of bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms that call your body home, participates in this grand integration. These microscopic partners help digest your food, synthesize vitamins, train your immune system, and even influence your behavior and mental health. You are not just a single organism, but a walking ecosystem, a community of life forms working together in remarkable harmony. Your body's ability to heal and regenerate showcases this integration beautifully. When you cut your skin, a complex cascade of events unfolds. Platelets form a clot to stop bleeding, immune cells clear away debris and fight infection, growth factors stimulate new cell production, and eventually new skin forms that is often stronger than before. Your bones continuously remodel themselves, your liver can regrow from just a small portion, and your brain forms new neural connections throughout your life. The plasticity of your nervous system exemplifies this adaptive integration.
Your brain doesn't just process information, it constantly rewires itself based on experience. When you learn a new skill, practice a musical instrument, or even just pay attention to something, you literally change the structure of your brain. Neurons form new connections, strengthening pathways that are used frequently and pruning those that are not. Your emotions and consciousness emerge from this biological symphony like music from an orchestra. The feeling of love activates reward circuits in your brain while triggering the release of oxytocin and other hormones. Fear engages your amygdala while preparing your body for action through your sympathetic nervous system. Joy and sadness, hope and anxiety all arise from the intricate dance of neurotransmitters, hormones, and neural networks. Even sleep, that mysterious state that claims a third of your life, reveals the beauty of biological integration. During sleep, your brain clears away metabolic waste through your glymphatic system, consolidates memories, and processes emotions. Your immune system uses this time to strengthen its defenses. Your growth hormone levels peak to promote tissue repair. Your muscles relax, while your dreams weave together the experiences of your day into the tapestry of memory. Your aging process, too, reflects this integration. As your telomeres shorten, your hormones shift, and your cellular repair mechanisms become less efficient, changes ripple through every system. Yet even in aging, your body demonstrates remarkable resilience and adaptation, finding new ways to maintain function and preserve what matters most. The uniqueness of your biological symphony is perhaps most wondrous of all. Your genetic code, shaped by millions of years of evolution and made unique by the random shuffle of reproduction, has never existed before and will never exist again. Your fingerprints, your voice patterns, your immune system's recognition molecules, even the specific collection of microorganisms you host, all are uniquely yours. Yet, despite this uniqueness, you share fundamental similarities with every other human being. Your heart beats with the same essential rhythm. Your neurons fire using the same basic mechanisms. Your immune system recognizes threats using ancient patterns. You are simultaneously utterly individual and profoundly connected to all humanity through the shared heritage of your biological design. As you lie here now, preparing for sleep, your body continues its faithful work. Your heart beats steadily, about once per second, as it has for every second of your life since you were a tiny embryo. Your lungs expand and contract in their ancient rhythm. Your kidneys filter your blood. Your liver processes the day's meals. Your immune system patrols for threats. Your brain consolidates the memories of this day while preparing for tomorrow's experiences. In your bone marrow, new blood cells are being born to replace those that have completed their service. In your intestines, beneficial bacteria are breaking down fibers and producing vitamins. In your muscles, tiny tears from the day's activities are being repaired, making you slightly stronger. In your brain, the neural pathways activated by today's experiences are being strengthened, while others fade away. You are a walking miracle, dear one, a temporary arrangement of stardust that has somehow learned to contemplate its own existence. The calcium in your bones was forged in the heart of a dying star. The iron in your blood was scattered across the cosmos by ancient supernovae. The water in your cells has cycled through countless other living beings across millions of years.
You are the universe becoming conscious of itself, matter organizing itself into patterns of such complexity and beauty that consciousness and love and wonder emerge like flowers blooming in an endless garden. You are both ancient and new. Ancient in your fundamental chemistry and cellular mechanisms, new in the specific pattern that is uniquely you. Every breath you take participates in the great atmospheric dance that connects you to every plant and animal on Earth. Every heartbeat moves blood through vessels that branch like rivers through the landscape of your body. Every thought creates ripples of electrical activity across networks more complex than any galaxy. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, a living poem written in the language of atoms and molecules, a song sung by cells and organs, a dance performed by systems working